Hello everyone, welcome to Jacqs. Thank you for joining me today for our first What a Card Wednesday. I'm so excited. We will be using the Simply Cards and Papercraft magazine, issue 177, and we will be creating a coffee card that I previously showed in a prior video. So I'm really excited about that. And I have also decided to go ahead and give it a try to do this What a Card Wednesday twice a month. So February 27th will be the next time that we do a card, and I previously mentioned doing a bonus card, but I'm trying to keep my videos a little bit shorter than normal. So what I've decided is to create the bonus gift card on February 27th. So today we're making a simple coffee card, and then next Wednesday, the 27th, when we meet, we will be creating the gift card. So that's what we'll be doing for February, and I have some fun things planned out for March already. I'm really excited about that. And remember, at the end of each video, you will see the list of supplies needed for the upcoming card that we'll be making. Now, since I provided the supplies for this coffee card as well as the gift card, I won't be providing a list in this particular video for February 27th. Hope that makes sense. Okay, so just one more thing before we get started. I just want to say that sometimes when I give you a list of supplies, I have in mind that that's what I'm going to use, but as I end up, putting my supplies together and mapping it out, sometimes I might change them, so please don't get upset with me. I am trying to do the best that I can, and I will accept your constructive feedback anytime. So just remember, we're all kind of learning and doing this together, and it's okay no matter what kind of supplies that we use, whatever we have on hand. I will try to provide templates when possible. So today I provided some templates for the coffee card. So I hope you enjoy those for those that didn't have the magazine or the great freebies or anything that's complimentary in your stash. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, the first thing that we're going to do is take the 8.5 by 11 paper, and we are going to cut it down to card size. So the first thing I do is cut it at 6 1/8 lengthways. And then turn it around and cut it at 9. Sorry about that noise. Then what we'll do is take our scored board, and if you don't have a scoreboard, all you have to do is take your ruler and line it up where you need it, and you can use that as a guide as well. But since we have a scoreboard, we are going to go to 4 1/2 because that was the original width size that we needed. And we will give this a good burnish. And then there we have our card base. So the next thing we're going to do is the next layer that goes on top of the card, and for that I'm going to be using Coordinations adhesive cardstock. I hauled this from Pat Catan's, and I have that in a haul that I did. What's awesome about that is it is a peel and stick cardstock. So we are going to cut this down to 4 1/4 by 5 7/8. Oops, 4 1/4. And I'm going to use my smaller We Are Memory Keeper cutter to do the 5 7/8 because of the fold here. This is where having two cutters comes in handy for sure. Okay. So we now have our base, we have our first layer. The next layer that we are cutting is going to be the top layer, and we are going to cut that at 4 5/8 inch. Again, I'm going to be going back and forth on cutters. 5/8 inch. And what this does is it gives a 1/4 of an inch border around each piece. So there's your base, your first layer, and then your top layer. And of course you will, put adhesive on the back of these that don't have it. Like this is just cream cardstock, probably Recollections. I picked that up at Michael's. The white base is Recollections as well from Michael's. Now before we adhere anything together, we are going to use some of the products that came with the magazine. This was a freebie set. You got 5-piece die set, you got 13 stamps, and then 2 stencils in one. And we're going to take the stencils off, and we are going to use the beans and just go along the top edge and cover in about 2 rows. So you could actually, there's 4 rows here, so you could really pick which way you wanted it to look. I think I'd like it more straight on top and decorative on the bottom. So I'm going to align that. Now if you do not have coffee beans, in your stash, you can certainly use any other type of stencil that you might have that is decorative, or put another decorative piece of paper up at the top to decorate it. You don't have to have these particular items to do it. Just think of what you already have. Stencils that you already have, decorative paper if you don't want to do stenciling, anything will work. Okay, now that I have it lined up, I'm just going to use some washi that I have in my stash, just so that it doesn't move on me. And I'll be using Ranger Archival ink. This is coffee. So if you have any type of brown or tan type of ink pad, I would recommend that if you are doing any type of stenciling. So I thought I would try a new way of stenciling. I've been seeing some individuals use makeup brushes or stippling brushes, and I have this old makeup brush from Mary Kay, and I thought I would give that a try. I do also have a sponge applicator that we could do if this doesn't work. But they were saying that the use of a brush made it easier to get into the stencil without the brush being caught on the stencil. Like when you use sponge applicators, that it's kind of hard to move it around. They kind of get stuck in there. So having the brush, you could just stipple it on like that, or you could take it and just go around in circles on it, or just brush it on like makeup. So however you like it. Actually, this is working really well. So much easier. And you also have the ability to make it darker in some places and lighter in another. So I kind of like that. Seems like you have a little bit more control. Okay, I'll flip this up so we can see how that worked. They're sticky on the stencil, and it actually tore that just a bit. So that's what it looks like. Looks like I did get some below that, but not bad enough to where it will ruin it. And the great thing is you can put it right back down and do some more if you need to. So there's our beans. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is adhere our pink cardstock to the base, or whatever color your first layer of cardstock is. I'm really liking that that was self-stick. It makes it so much easier. Now the key is to get this lined up pretty good. You know, it doesn't have to be exactly perfect, although that's what we try for. It is homemade, and any imperfection is perfect. Okay, so next we're going to adhere the top layer of the card, and what I've done is use Score Pal adhesive tape and put that onto the back side of this. And we will again try to line this up the best we can. Okay, so our card is coming together. Looking good. For the next piece, we are going to create the plaid area, or kind of the base at the bottom of the card. And we're going to cut that at 2 1/4 by 4 1/4, and I'm sorry, but I already cut it. I forgot to film that part. So this is 4 1/4 this way and 2 1/2 this way, and we will adhere that to the card. And what's great about that, because of the length, is that the colors will match up on the edge, and it won't go past that. The second one, which I already cut, again, I'm sorry, is the inside, or the actual plaid piece, and this gets cut at 4 inches this way by 2 1/4 this way, and it gets layered at the same width of the beige or cream, whatever color your top layer piece is, and that way it just kind of blends really well that way. And we're going to place this on the card so the pink one will be a 1/2 inch from the edge of the base. Okay, so a 1/2 inch from the white base card edge, you will lay the next top layer here, and then the plaid one on top. Now, I know I had all that new plaid paper that I purchased, but I came across this digital plaid, and I love that it was on a wooden background, so I used that. And this image is a digital image by Fayette Designs, and I will link her below. So let's go ahead, and once you cut those pieces, let's get these adhered. So if we want to be exact, we can measure this a 1/2 inch from the edge of the white card. Put a little mark there. And then we will add our inside base piece here, is what I'm going to call it, right on top, making sure to align it with the first layer so that it blends in better. I'm really happy with the way that laid down. I think I'm even going to crease it a little bit. It actually kind of pops it up some. Yeah, I'm liking that. Okay. And then for our second piece, we will remove the tape there. And I marked on the back which way I wanted it to go, because I want most of the plaid to show here. And again, we're going to lay layer this on top, and it will be 1/8 of an inch from the top and the bottom of the pink piece and in alignment with the cream color. Okay, so that you have 1/8 of an inch all the way around. And then we'll burnish that down. So basically you have all the base pieces on the card. The next is kind of decorating the card and layering up the messaging. Okay, now what we're going to do is create our first coffee cup to go onto the card. If you have the magazine, you will have the stamp of the coffee cup, and we'll be using this piece. Now, it mentions you can take a white piece of cardstock, put the stencil over it, and again use some color ink to make the design on the paper, and then stamp the coffee cup over it and cut that out for your first cup. However, what I wanted to show you is that we can use just our regular decorative paper. I have this in my scraps, and I love the design on the back of it, and it's kind of like vines, and so I thought we would use that. I'm using my We Are Memory Keeper Precision Press Advance. I'm going to put my cardstock down. I'm going to put my cup where I want it. And then put this down over it and press. So that gets it onto the plate where I absolutely want to have it. And then next I will be using Ranger Archival ink, Jet Black, to ink it up. And we will line up the holes and press this down. Ooh, look at that. Perfect. So there's our cup. Now what we do is we're going to cut this out. Cut out here, and this would be perfectly fine to add to your card just like it is. It would sit on there like this. However, it does talk about coloring the lid, and so to test it out, what I did was I re-stamped the coffee stamp again, and I just did inked the lid, and then I cut the lid out. And I have these great Crayola pipsqueaks, and you know, when I first started out doing art journaling and things like that, I bought this and I love it. It has every color that you could possibly want, and what's awesome about it, it comes in this tray, and if you turn that, then it all like collapses, so it stores really easy. And then again, you pull it up and twist, and then there you have your tiered markers. So I use whoops. So I use these in coloring, and what I did was I tried to match the pink color here, and I found this color, Parrot Pink. Again, it's the Pipsqueaks kind. And I colored just the lid, and I thought that looked really good. So, even though the lid is already here, I'm going to glue this on top of it, and it will just really add some depth to it. So I'm really happy about that. So let's do that. Now, if you don't want to test it out, you can certainly just go ahead and take your markers and color the top of your lid, or you can leave it white, however you like to do it. This is your card, put your signature on it. I will say that if you are going to, you know, color the lid, make sure that you go around the edges of it so that it also gets colored. It just lets it blend in a little bit better. So there we go, our first coffee cup. Okay, so the magazine recommends putting this on 3D foam tape. I do not, because I think it would just continue to build up layer upon layer, and I just think the first one would make more sense if it's adhered flatly and build from there. So that's what we're going to do. I again am using these scrappy tape. I think I said score tape before. This is the Scrappy Pow tape. I will link it below in case I'm saying the wrong word. And then we will take our first coffee cup and adhere it to the card. Now, what I think will be cool is if it does go over the edge a little bit, it'll just give it some interest. And we want to kind of put this one a little bit high because we're going to be adding 2 more. I think that should work there. And there we go. Okay, for the next one I am going to use the stencil as well as Momenta, and this is Danube Blue. Okay, so I finished adding the stencil to white cardstock, and then I use Momenta as well as just a little bit of archival ink Cobalt, and I use the little brush again to add the full coloring to the top here to fill that in. It gave a nice complementary color. And so now I'm using Sticky Thumb dots from American Craft. These are 0.5 and they're raised. I thought this would be a nice step up, so we have this one flat. We will put this one up 0.5, and then we will use the foam tape on the last one, and I think that will be a better complement than having them all on foam tape. So let's remove these. and position this where we want it. And I think that looks great right there. Okay, one more coffee cup to go. Now for this last cup, what I went and did was go ahead and use some decorative paper. This is DCWV, and I already stamped it and cut it out. And next we will be adding the coffee cup holder. There's a couple ways you could do this, and one of them is to take craft cardstock and cut that out and stamp it and use it. Or what I did here was I cut it out like this. It's 1 inch by 1.5, and then I took the scoreboard and I did every line through it. So if this was my piece, I would have put it up here and then done every line. With my scissors, I took this and angled it inward. So that it mirrors the stamp. And on the bottom, rounded the edges inward. And again, that mirrors the stamp. And what I found is, because this is raised on the back side of it, if you take this archival ink coffee and you turn it around so that you have the raised sides on the back and put some ink over it, it defines the lines that you've created and actually brings them more to the surface so that you could see it. So it's almost as if you have the lines from the stamp on there. Now you can leave it this way and put it on your coffee. Or you could take it and actually, mountain and valley fold the craft cardstock like this. And then of course that gives it more definition, and then you could glue that on here as well. However, that's using it without a stamp. If you have the stamp, you could certainly take craft cardstock, stamp this on there, cut it out, and add it. But what I am going to do, and maybe I should have put this in the list of supplies, is I was recently at Panera, or maybe you already have corrugated cardboard in your stash. I am going to take this and trace the stamp, and then I will have an item that will fit on there. So I was going to use this Panera Bread coffee holder because it has the corrugated board, and then I realized that I also had some other Panera coffee holder in my stash, and I like this one better because it's more of like a quilting. So I'm going to use that. So although I cut out the coffee holder in the other one, I use this as a template to cut out another one, So now I'm just going to go over it a little bit. And then it will look like this. That's cute. Okay, the next thing that I did was take the coffee cup lid and I die cut that using my Sizzix Sidekick. And I used this as well as some black archival ink to go around the edges of it. So I'm just going to glue this down. And I'm using art glitter glue. Okay. Then I also use the heart circle die and cut that out. It actually cuts out the heart from the center. So I chose to use the same paper that was mirroring the plaid so that it draws the color in and you get, you know, some consistency in your coloring. Going to put that in the center of the cup. And then I'm going to take the little heart that I cut out that was part of this little die and glue that in the center. And I use the same paper that the cup was made out of. So again, to just, you know, build the consistency in the coloring. So adorable. So see how it pulls all the colors together? I'm liking that a lot. Okay, the next thing was I also cut out the little tag that came with the packet there. This is the cutest little tag. I love the little T cut out there. And so we need to stamp on here the perfect blend. I don't know how this is going to fit on there. I guess it will. It's so little. Okay. So I got my stamp pad back out and I'm just going to set the little tag in there. Now this is going to be difficult. I don't think I'm going to be able to use the magnets because the tag is so small. So I think I'm going to use just a little bit of washi just so that it stays in place. Let's see, we need to get it straight, I think. Okay. And the perfect blend, you need to make it diagonal a little bit, I think. Or maybe not. It's so small. Okay, so let's put this on top. Oops, I'm doing it wrong. Nope, that's right. I do love the way you can line things up using a stamp press. And there we go. The perfect blend. Now, of course, you can make any size tag that you like. A small one would be preferred because of the size of the coffee cups. Oops, better take that off. Okay, now we're going to assemble the cup with the coffee holder. And we are going to take some embroidery thread. I chose pink to match and wrap this around. and thread on our little tag. And then we'll tie that into a bow. Okay, so because it was a little bit tricky, offline I went ahead and tied the embroidery thread around the part that we are calling the coffee holder. And here's a little tip, and maybe you already knew this, but for those that don't, I first looped the thread around and then I put a little piece of Scotch tape on the back to hold the thread. That made it easier to loop on the tag and then tie the bow. Once I had the bow tied, I then put a little bitty piece of glue, well, it's not a piece, but a little dab of glue behind the thread knot and pushed it and held it just for a moment so that it would hold the bow in place and let the loops show rather than kind of just falling. I even put a little dab of glue on the back of the tag so that it laid flat onto the, coffee holder, but it's still loose and open on this edge, as well as put a little glue on the threads so that they would lie where I wanted them to. This is so tiny, it's difficult to work with. So the next thing I'm going to do then is to adhere that to the actual coffee cup. I'm not sure how well this will work because there's bulk to it. So if it doesn't work with just this glue, I'll put some foam tape on it. So you'll need to press it down to hold it because the thread behind it makes it curve up a little bit. You can see it right there. I think it's going to work. So there we have the... Okay, now we're going to adhere this to our card. And the best way to do it is, because we're going to layer it up a little bit, we have to be mindful of the varying heights of the prior two cards that are there. So what we need to do is put foam tape on the bottom and on the side that's over here, because remember this is flat. And when it goes onto this card, we don't need it to be as high as this side because this is already raised 0.5. So I'm going to use these 0.5 sticky thumb dots again on this side. And then that way it makes it level. Okay? Now, if you've adhered all of your coffee cups, flatly and didn't raise them up at all, that's fine too. Just go ahead and use the same type of adhesive and not worry about the foam adhesive. These sticky dots are really sticky. I wanted it up that high. Yeah. Right, we're going to do it. And then just apply a little pressure to get it to stick. I would definitely recommend these American Craft sticky thumbs. They are sticky. Okay, so there we have it. Now, of course, this doesn't look exactly like the picture that we did. They seem to have more spacing. I sometimes wonder if their card base was bigger, but you know what? It doesn't matter because it looks perfectly fine, just like this. The next thing we will do is the sentiments. Okay, so I pulled off the Happiness is Coffee and Friends stamps from the stamps collection there that they provided. And again, you can use any stamps that you have. We're going to go ahead and stamp this. In the set that came with the magazine, it actually said coffee tea, and I just cut the word tea out. Or you could have left it together and just not put ink on it. Okay, now that I have have cut out the words on the white cardstock, I've placed them on the pink cardstock, and I'd have adhered foam tape on the back, again on this one, because we're going to put it half on the coffee cup. I am only using foam tape on part of it, and then the sticky dot on the other side, and then foam tape on the other two pieces. And you place them wherever you like. So there you have our first card on What a Card Wednesday. I think it looks really cute. I'm interested in seeing what yours looks like, and I was wondering if you would like to post them on our Facebook group. I will leave the link down below. And I thought for those that post the card that they make for 3 months, I would then do a drawing of those that at least post 4 times out of the 3 months. You would be included in a drawing. So you would have to post 4 out of the 6 times that we create cards. So I hope that you have enjoyed this session. I have as well. Now on the inside of the card, we can certainly leave it blank. I will leave that up to you. We could also come in here and add some, more designs, some doing the stenciling of the beans or anything you like. And then of course on the back, you would put your label. But how cute is that? I'm loving it. I can't wait to see what yours looks like, so please be sure to post in the Facebook group. All right, guys, I'll see you next time.